What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Secret Invasion Season 1 of 1, maybe? I don't know. Episode 1, Resurrection. So this one is another one that I was not looking forward to in the Marvel lineup, but actually because of an opposite reason to She-Hulk, where She-Hulk, when I watched the preview, I have no desire to watch that, and then I heard some of the reviews coming out were not great, so it made me want to watch it even less. Secret Invasion was one I was actually excited for when I heard the concept, I saw one of the previews. I was like, okay, yeah, this could work. This might be something enjoyable. And then I heard some of the reviews about it, and it definitely did make me go, maybe I'm not as excited to watch this one. So, granted, I'll keep that bias out of my head. I won't go into it thinking, oh, it's just going to suck. But I definitely have heard not great things about it, which does make me nervous. From this first episode, though, it's okay. It's a pretty decent start. I think, honestly, the story and the characters are probably the best parts about it. It's really, I think, down to the editing and some of the direction from the camera. That's where I'm getting the most frustrated watching, because I like the overall idea. You know, it's very spy thriller-esque. It's got that hint of you don't know who to trust because you don't know who could be a Skrull hiding. I like that concept. I mean, when they did it with the LMDs and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was a great idea. It was a lot of fun trying to figure out who's been turned into a robot and who hasn't. And then, of course, they butchered it in The Flash, but that's another story. But yeah, so I like that idea, and especially if you put it into a spy thriller type of story, I do think that adds an extra element of deceit and mistrust that can really get you excited to see what's going to happen next. The characters as well. I mean, Fury, it's always fun to see. Granted, this version of Fury is that kind of washed up version where everybody's telling you're too old to be doing this, and that's a story that I'm not as big on, but we'll see how they decide to handle it. But I mean, having Hill, at least for now, in this episode, maybe she'll come back, because spy thrillers like to kill off people, but not really. So we'll see if this is actual death or not. If it is, then I will say it's kind of a lame death for Maria Hill. And then Talos, I like him as a character. The villains, so far pretty intimidating. The motivation to me sounds a little flimsy, but we'll see if there's maybe a deeper issue there that we haven't really discovered yet that has turned this Gravis, something like that, turned him a little bit more psychotic to the idea of, well, since we're not finding a home planet for ourselves, we're just going to basically destroy this planet for humans so that we can live here. Kind of a crazy radical idea, and I'd like to see how he came to that idea, and hopefully it's not just I'm sick of living here because I've lived here for like 20 years. Okay. That's not that long, buddy. But yeah, production-wise, that's where I have a lot of the issues right now. First of all, we'll talk about the opening, because if you've watched any of my reviews before, especially my reviews of like The Mandalorian, you know that I'm not a big fan of AI in art. I think it's not really useful in artistic mediums, because basically all it can really be used to do is to steal other people's work, put it into a program, and then manufacture it for a cheaper rate than an actual artist could do it. The opening is a great example of that. And I actually looked up to see, why did they do that? Why did they decide to go with AI art for the opening instead of hiring an actual artist to do it? And they came up with some BS excuse of, oh, well, it's because this, when you look at the scrolls, they kind of shapeshift from human into something that's not. And so it's supposed to give this feel of something that's not human because this art was not created by... It's bullshit. You did it because it's cheaper. Because I'm watching the opening going, this is ugly. Like, the only emotion that it evoked from me, it did not evoke from me because of the art. Sometimes when you look at art, there's a bit of a discomfort to it because the artist wanted you to feel that bit of discomfort. This, I didn't feel discomfort from the art. I felt discomfort because of the art. Because I looked at it and went, it's not right. But it looks wrong. It looks ugly. It doesn't look like a good opening. When I watch some of the other openings for Marvel shows, especially if you go back to like the Netflix Marvel shows, those openings, they got me excited. They got me into the world. I was excited to see more because they were well done. They fit the tone, the theme. They felt like they were made by somebody. This just doesn't, it feels like a 3-year-old basically just kind of took these faces of people and just started like painting on them and stuff. And there's no real like effort put into it. It feels weird, and it doesn't feel like there was effort involved, if that makes sense. So it's hard to put into words, because I mean, how do you describe art really? How do you put that idea into thoughts and words? But when I look at this, even if I didn't know this was AI art, I would look at it and go, this was not a well done opening. So very disappointed with that. And then when it comes to the editing and the camera work so far, it's very, very oddly paced and very shoddily edited for me. First one that I really, really noticed it on was whenever they were interrogating the art dealer that was given the dirty bombs. Fury and Talos are interrogating him, and Hill sees Gaia, I don't remember, sees her walking away, goes to track her. She walks for a couple of minutes while they're up there interrogating. They're just getting done with their interrogation. Suddenly Hill gets ambushed by Gaia. Talos is there now. Like, their fight didn't last that long. It was 10 seconds maybe. How did Talos get from where they were? He was sitting on the ground, pissed off that Fury shot the guy. And all of a sudden now he's with Hill out of nowhere? And then you move forward a little bit. He picks her up in a taxi, which they're both shapeshifted as other people. Picks her up in a taxi. We don't even know how they managed to coordinate this. And they're in an alley talking, and she's explaining what's going to happen. Suddenly we just cut back to the apartment where Hill, Fury, and Talos are planning. We cut back, and he's there as the other two are walking in, and he says something like, Gaia's back or something, or she contacted me or something. And then suddenly now we're in the middle of the mission, and just no like fade into it, no talking about what they're going to do. They're talking about it now that they're on the mission. And it was just so quick. And now the mission is also all over the place because they're following the two bags. Hill and Talos are following one, Fury's following the other. It gets into this big plaza type square where everybody's just mingling and stuff. All of a sudden, Fury is nowhere near the bags. He's following this little girl that he saw earlier that's creeping him out. We've got Hill and Talos now following the two bags separately. Don't know when they split up to follow the bags separately because they were only following one. So I don't know when that happened. And then we find out it's a decoy. We find out Gravis, or whatever his name is, planned this whole thing, wanted to basically separate everybody, and then blows up the thing. And then from then on, it's a bunch of chaos, which makes sense, but it's not well-planned chaos. Like, you can do chaos in a way where it feels natural and it feels like this is what it would be like. But, I mean, you look at how Maria gets shot. He's walking away from Fury. Fury's trying to go after him. For some reason, can't just bust through all these people. Don't know why. But then all of a sudden we cut, and he's walking in front of Maria, and she's walking up to him, and then he shoots her. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, so he shapeshifted into Fury. When did that happen? And Fury is still behind him trying to chase after him. I'm like, dude, you were just behind him. You were like, 15 feet behind him, and you're chasing after him, trying to bust through all these people? He walks away, somehow has time to shapeshift into him, shoot Maria, and he's still just as far behind him as he was before. Because he stopped for like a good 3 to 5 seconds and pulls a gun on Maria. Like, that's the problem, is that, yes, it's chaotic, so it's easy to fool the audience into being like, okay, so all this crazy stuff is happening, and all of a sudden, there's Maria and Fury standing next to each other. Oh, and he shot her because it's actually Gravis now. Like, it's easy to do that, but it's not easy to do it in a way where you kind of get that shock and awe. Like, I didn't feel that because I'm too confused about what just happened. Like, you really want to have that moment where he changes into Fury and shoots her and have it really impact the audience. Do it in a way that makes sense. Have Fury try to chase him down, and he goes running out of the plaza, and we just see the two of them go through the door, and then Hill, as she's helping people out, maybe sees him and all the chaos and kerfuffle and all of that outside, goes up to him, he turns and shoots her. Then we did not see Fury chasing after we didn't see that the end of that chase. Here, the chase was still like in the process of happening, and then all of a sudden he's Fury now. It's just so oddly edited in a way that it's more confusing than it is shocking. I don't understand why. Like, I feel like it's so easy, especially when you have a setup like this, it's so easy to get that right. You just have to make sure you plan it out, make sure you get the layout of the area that you're filming in. Make sure you get that layout, plan where everybody's going to be, plan step A to step B, because that's the thing. If you're doing a spy thriller, a lot of this is going to probably come down to where are people, what moves are being made, because it's very detailed, it's very plan oriented. But if they're already making these kind of errors where you're just things are happening and the audience is completely lost on where people are in relation to each other, you're going to have a lot of these issues where I'm just going to be very confused about how this whole thing happened because it's all over the place and it's very poorly edited. So just very frustrating from that. But the rest of it, like I said, is fine. I like the interrogation scene. I like the scene with Fury and Hill in the bar. I like that opening scene with Ross as well. I mean, kind of you get a sense that he's a Skrull, but you're not entirely sure. And it feels like it's taken forever to know for sure, and then finally you see at the end, it's like, okay, he is. But it kind of sets up for that feeling of, God, who do you trust? Like, who is a Skrull and who's not? It's so hard to really tell, and that leads to it can lead to a lot of fun moments at least. But will they take advantage of that? That's where the question's really going to come in. But yeah, I think I'm nervous because I did like this first episode a decent amount. So it's nerve-wracking that apparently this show is not very well reviewed. I'm like, okay, does that mean that I'm going to be one of the few that did like it and then I'm just weird? Or is it just going to get worse from here? And this first episode was basically building up my hope to be smashed later. For now, that's it for this first one. On to the second episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 2, Promises. It's okay. I mean, I'm enjoying the spy thriller aspect still. I'm enjoying some of the espionage, the undercover, seeing Gaia try to go and get some information to try to give to her dad, trying to figure out who we can trust inside of the government and all of this. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I just feel like they're not really using it how I want to see them use it. Like, I want to see Fury a bit more involved. At the moment, we're still kind of dealing with this he's old and washed up story for him. And I kind of feel like that should have gone away in this episode. I feel like we saw it at first, and maybe you can explain that's why Maria gets killed, because he's not at the top of his game. Granted, it's seeming like this is true, like she actually is dead. Like, you wouldn't show her mother grieving her death if she wasn't actually dead. I will say the fact that she dies as just some random villain of the week on this show is a weak death. I mean, Coulson, I know technically came back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he got killed by Loki. Like, he was one that was around for a while. He got killed by Loki. That's a big deal death. Maria just gets killed by this random Skrull that's trying to overthrow Fury and what he's trying to do and basically take over the Earth. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a Skrull. Just some random Skrull who's pissed off because he feels like Fury let them down. That's a terrible death for Maria. Could you imagine you're being asked, hey, Kobe, we need you to come back and play Maria Hill again. I know it's been a little bit, because I don't think she's been Maria since Spider-Man Far From Home. So the fact that they're just like, hey, come back and play Maria Hill again, and we're going to kill you off in the first episode of this show, and it's just going to be some random Skrull who we're probably never going to hear from again after this show's done. That would suck. That would really suck. But I feel like her death should be used more effectively. It should be hey, Fury, you got beat, you got bested, you got outplayed. We should see him start to take things seriously, and instead we see him go apologize to the mother, and then he goes and talks to Rhodey, and then Rhodey fires him, and then he gets mad, gets out of there, and then starts crying on a bench, and then goes back home to, I'm guessing, his wife that's apparently a Skrull, and I don't know if he knows that or not. I mean, why are we seeing poor pitiful me, Nick Fury? That's not the Nick Fury I wanted to see coming into the show. Yeah, you could show that he's a bit older and he's not quite on top of things after what happened with the snap. You could show that in the first episode, but that's not what I want to see for this whole season. And granted, obviously we've still got 4 episodes to go, but next episode is halfway through the season. So if we're not going to see him get over this in the second episode, he's still not over it. By the third one, that means he's still going to at least be getting over it, which means we're going to have 3 episodes maybe to get the actual Nick Fury that I think we've all come to know and love, this badass who's always one step ahead of the game. We want to see that Nick Fury, right? So why are we not seeing him right now? Why are you not giving us that Nick Fury? We're a third of the way through the season. Still the same old, oh, poor, pitiful, washed up me. He's trying to pull the race card on Rhodey to try to get a favor. Like, that's not Nick Fury. I'm just so confused about what they're doing with his character right now, and I don't know if this is the problem that a lot of people had with this show, but I'm definitely a little frustrated that we're not seeing him get back to his best right now. Everything to do with the Skrulls, we'll probably find out a little bit more about this Gravik kid. I hope it's not just this, though. I hope there's something else going on. We're seeing that these doctors are experimenting on something. They have all these different pieces of, like, there was a piece of Groot, there was a piece of a frost giant. I don't remember all of the stuff that was listed there, but they're experimenting with something, and the guy that was being tortured by the one British lady from MI6, he said something about making them stronger. So I wonder if it's less about making Earth a home for the Skrulls because this kid just got tired of waiting for Fury to do it for them. He seems to be talking a lot about this failed general in Talos. I do wonder if maybe he's still a little messed up from his parents getting killed by the Kree. And so maybe he's just all like warmonger mindset, basically. And if that's the case, then maybe that's what's going on. It's not so much he's just sick of waiting for Fury to keep his word. Maybe he just wants to make the Skrull feared. He wants to take control, he wants to be the leader, and he wants to make them a powerful people. And so part of what this experiment is about making them stronger. Because right now, all they really have is, yes, they're a little bit stronger than humans, but they can shapeshift. That's basically their big thing. So I'm wondering if he's trying to find a way to make Skrulls more powerful so that way they can be a more powerful species and just start ruling somewhere. Maybe fight back against the Kree even. So if that's the case, that would be a little bit more interesting. That's just kind of some thoughts that were coming to mind as Gaia was seeing all of this stuff. But yeah, I also hope we find out a little bit more about this council too, because they seem to just sort of come out of nowhere. And I feel like this is something important that needs to be explained, how they got into these positions of power outside of just, oh, there were more Skrulls here than Fury originally thought, and so they've been using that to their advantage. This feels like it needs to be explained how all of these people got so powerful, and also why they formed this little council in the first place, because it seems like they were sitting there talking about, oh, we're just keeping the peace. Yeah, but how did that form? Why did you guys, was it just one of the Skrulls got into a position of power and people started getting worried that, oh no, what if they do something with that position of power, and so it just kind of formed naturally? I don't know. I do want to learn a little bit more about that council. I hope they have some answers for us in that sense. Yeah, I will say the other thing that's a little frustrating for me is that we've not streamlined. It's almost like we kind of pushed things away, where it felt like, you know, it was all focused on this one thing, and now all of a sudden it's sort of becoming separate things, all about still the Skrull invasion. You've got Gaia doing her stuff, trying to, I guess, root things out from the inside. I think she called in on that safe house to make this Rogan guy get killed. I think he was going to anyway, because it seemed like Gravik knew that he gave the woman some information. Don't know for sure, but her calling in that tip definitely got him killed. And I don't know why she did that to begin with. I don't know if maybe she's just trying to sow some distrust in the group, because maybe that'll make Gravik weaker. Don't really know what her plans are right now. I know she's trying to get more information, that much is clear, but I'm not really understanding a lot of the moves that she's making. But yeah, with Talos, I don't know what's going on with him either. I mean, he calls the one woman calls him after she finds out about Gravik taking over the council, and he says he wants to meet with him about his daughter. And then we never see him again. And just his whole bust up between him and Fury was very sudden, and it just felt like it came out of nowhere, and we didn't see them together again for the rest of the episode. We only saw Talos in that one scene where he's taking the call. So it feels like his story is kind of being pushed to the side right now. Fury, like I said, a lot of his story is more so focused on him as a character and all the awful stuff he's going through. It just doesn't feel very focused, even though it is. I don't know how to explain it, but it's all about the Skrull secret invasion, and yet I feel like it's still unfocused. It feels like it doesn't have a destination right now. It's kind of just meandering in these first two episodes. And I feel like, especially after the attack that happened in the last episode, I feel like it should have been more focused going forward. Like Fury's reaction to what happened with Hill and the bombing, getting beaten. Talos's reaction to Gaia. Did she betray us? Like, I feel like there were a few more things that could have happened there. Obviously, the reaction of the world. There was a lot of things that should have come out of that, and it feels like we got some of the reaction from the world, but not too much. We got some of Fury reacting to Hill's death, but not too much. Talos, we didn't even really see him suspect Gaia of betraying them. So I don't know. It feels like the writing is kind of a little sloppy right now. I hope it gets more streamlined as we go along, but we'll see. First 2 episodes, though, I gotta say, it's not bad. It's definitely not as bad as what I was hearing. Again, could definitely get to that point, and that is something that does have me concerned. But I think right now, I like the spy aspect of it. I like some of the story. Fury is not exactly where I thought he was going to be. He's not the character I thought he was going to be, except for a couple of scenes here and there. And the Skrulls, they're okay. I want to learn a little bit more about them. Kind of hate the fact that we only got 6 episodes for this, because it feels like there's a lot of characters being introduced that we should have learned more about. You know, we should be getting more information. But I feel like we're kind of having to rush through it real quick because we've only got 6 episodes. It feels weird that they're trying to condense a lot of these stories when it feels like you're given a season. You're given multiple episodes. Why not try to give as much time as possible to really flesh out stories and characters? Why are we trying to pack it all in so quickly? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But with all that being said, though, those are my thoughts on the first 2. Let me know down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these first 2 episodes? Did you like it? Did you not? Were you excited for the show? Were you not? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Secret Invasion reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of reviews on there, as well as a couple Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you all later. Peace out.